Hi, welcome to Senior Strategies. I am Amy Decker, Director of Client Services with Senior Helpers and the host of your show, Senior Strategies, Tools for the Caregiver. One of the wonderful things about working for senior helpers is being able to make a difference in people's days in their homes. So those that need extra care in the home, we have caregivers that will call us and say that they just need extra help with those that they love. And what's nice about it is we get to know them as family members. They become our family members and good friends. So the guest that I'm going to have on today is Taylor Stevens with his husband, Don Kavanaugh. And we have been caring for him for many years. And we are excited to be able to feature them on our program today to talk about what it's like to be a caregiver, the challenges that you have to be a caregiver, the successes that you have when you are a caregiver. So stay tuned, and we are going to be talking to Taylor and his husband, Donald, and learn more what it's like to be a caregiver and maybe some little tidbits that he can share with you. So come back. Welcome to Senior Strategies, Tools for the Caregiver with Amy Decker and Shane Silver. Join us on each show where you're going to enjoy a lively conversation that's going to connect you to the tools and resources that you'll need to coordinate care for the seniors in your life. We are so happy that you joined us. So welcome to our show, Senior Strategies, Tools for the Caregiver. As I talked about, I get to have the honor of interviewing a good friend of mine, Taylor Stevens, who we met because of caring for his husband, Donald. And we're going to talk about some of the challenges that he's met, some of the tidbits of information he can share with us, and just a fun story about his journey. So welcome to the show, Taylor. We're happy to have you.
Thank you, Amy.
And so how long ago was Donald diagnosed?
Donald was diagnosed in 2016. I want to just, if you don't mind, I'm going to just expand on that just slightly.
Absolutely.
He was diagnosed a month and a half at the most from when my mother passed away.
Oh, boy.
So my mother passed away in February. Donald went to a neurologist in March, and we received a diagnosis of Alzheimer's in April of 2016.
Okay.
So we immediately went into a research study in Delray, which was there were a lot of what I would term synchronicities happening for us. So I always felt like, as devastating as that was, we started seeing each other in 2009. So we got married 2010. This is 2016. We were led into this research study on Alzheimer's, and it was just...
Was it informative and made you feel good because you understood it, or was it completely mind-blowing?
Well, I think the whole, like, I never saw it coming. I'm a really intuitive person. I live by intuition, and I'm very good about things like that. And this felt like it came out of the blue.
Oh.
Donald is 10 years older than I am. However, he is from a family of no dementia, incredible longevity. And so I just always assumed, because I had had some health challenges before his diagnosis. So I always kind of thought, not that I dwelled in it, but I thought, you know what, I'll go before him. And then here we are with an Alzheimer's diagnosis. And
Right.
they told me at the research center that within 5 years, he would need complete total care.
Wow.
That he probably would not know me. And so that was completely devastating at every level. So we started into the research study. Within a year or so, I started feeling like something was off about the diagnosis. Again, we're in a research study with a world-renowned neurologist, an expert in Alzheimer's. And so I began to argue that
That's good, though.
believe
Questions are important. That's important.
Well, I think this is a caregiver presentation, if you will, or conversation. So I learned in a very practical way that we have to advocate for ourselves and for our loved ones. And so I got over the feeling pretty quickly that I didn't have the right to argue with these people who were experts. it didn't feel right to me. And with every visit, it felt less and less right for me. And so I fought it and I fought it and I fought it. And finally, the expert, the doctor said, I think I've missed something.
Oh,
So it was stunning. So he sent us to a different neurologist who then said, this is not Alzheimer's, this is Lewy body dementia.
uh-huh.
So while for many people that probably wouldn't feel like the good news,
Mm-hmm.
certainly for Donald's family, one of his sisters is a nurse, and she said, well, the outcome is going to be the same. For me, it felt like it's going to be a different trajectory. It's a very different illness.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a very long answer, but 2016 was the diagnosis. Here we are, 2024. Donald is absolutely pretty completely disabled, but his cognitive functioning is higher than most because he went into it with a genius IQ. He's extraordinarily smart.
Wow.
Lewy body has a feature of it that maybe people that are watching this may not know, that it's called cognitive reserve.
Mm-hmm.
So people with Lewy body, if they're in a situation, like if Donna were speaking with you,
Uh-huh.
he would rally to his best. It's short term, but they can rise to an occasion and then they crash. So it's a very interesting, fascinating, and often maddening part of the illness,
Right.
because one of the things I faced all along is that people will say to me, I don't understand what you're talking about. There's really nothing wrong with him.
Wow.
And so a lot of it has been the frustration of feeling like, but this is
But
no
then you've got to
longer.
stop. Then you probably feel the need to want to stop and have to educate everybody. Like, well,
Well,
this is
either
how it
that or
happens.
just like
Yeah.
shutting down from
Right.
the last thing I need is criticism.
Right.
And though people often don't realize that's what they're doing, that's what they bring to it. And
Right.
so I would say, oh my God, Donald, this, and this. And they would be like, we don't see what you're talking about. He's
Oh
fine.
boy.
And so that's been one of the
That's
most,
frustrating. That's very frustrating.
it's very frustrating. And it made me
Hmm.
question my own sanity often.
Yeah.
2 years ago, he got a UTI, urinary tract infection, and he had been doing pretty well up until that point. When he got the urinary tract infection, people with, my understanding is what the doctors told me, when somebody with dementia gets a UTI,
Hmm.
often they will really decline
Yes. They get
and
very, very, very confused or combative, even.
eat a lot. Like he
Yeah.
couldn't walk. He could no longer feed himself.
Hmm.
He lost almost all functions. He doesn't remember an entire month of his life. So that's when I actually contracted senior helpers, because I could no longer care for him
Right.
personally myself.
Right.
I had to have help.
Sure.
So they told me that he would regain some of his functions, but he never regained the ability to use his hands. He can't use utensils, so he has to.
Be
I have
fed.
to feed him every
Right.
meal. He
Right.
can't swallow medication. I have to crush all of his pills and put them in applesauce and then give them to him. So there
Hmm.
are a lot of things like that. He can't really bathe himself.
Hmm.
So the caregiving really amped up overnight,
And I
and
think
it's a
that is one of the
completely.
biggest things that so many they go into denial and think I can do this on my own. I can do this on my own, and I want the comforts to be that I'm caring for him versus sort of to come to the point saying, okay, I really do need help. I'm going to get a caregiver in the home. That in itself is earth shattering. To finally say, I got to get
It
somebody in to
is.
help me. But then once you realize the value of it and how much now it does relieve you of some of that, it gives you your own time to have your own life a little bit back.
Yeah, and at first, for probably 2 to 3 months, we had somebody almost all the time, not at night, but pretty much, because I couldn't even. I have a lot of my own physical things going on, like I have severe arthritis, and so I
Mhm.
have my own um illnesses to deal with.
Mhm.
So that's another thing I want to bring to this conversation, because I'm sure that that's true of a lot of people, particularly senior citizens.
Right.
I have my own things to deal with that make it more difficult to care for Donald. So I
And it can
couldn't.
also, caring for Donald and the stress and strain of that can also exacerbate your symptoms of whatever challenges that you're having with your health. Did you find that
It's
too?
absolutely had a detrimental effect on my
I'm
health.
sure.
So I
I'm
have to
sure.
watch that constantly.
Yes.
I couldn't get him from the TV room to the restroom on my own. He would pull me down.
Oh,
So we had, thank goodness, somebody found for us senior helpers, and it's been a real lifesaver.
good.
Now I only have help um, usually on Friday evenings, so I can go somewhere, meet
Hmm.
friends or whatever. And
Right.
then Sunday, I work out of the home.
Hmm.
So I have somebody on Sunday that cares for him. I have a couple hours after work so that I can do, but that's the help that I have in-house.
Good.
That's probably going to have to increase over time, but
Hmm.
right now it's doable.
But I like that
I
you've got
love to
something to
travel.
fall
I
back on, or like if you want to travel, if you're going to go visit family in New York, if you decide to go somewhere, I like that you're still making that part of time for you. That's what's important. And I think the biggest thing
well,
for caregivers is the
yeah.
guilt of leaving and the guilt of not being there. But I like it that you make it happen and you go do things for yourself. That's so
Well,
important.
and it's not that it's without guilt. It is, there's still that to deal with,
Right.
but I really am clear that, and Donald and I can still have a conversation that we have an agreement that he will go to a facility and he stays in a facility while I travel. We
Right.
have help with that, or we would not be able to do it. So we're so blessed,
Hmm.
because another piece of the education, I thought that, like Medicare, I thought that there would be more help than we have found that there actually is. So
Right.
almost everything is self-pay. I've called different agencies and things trying to get help, and it just hasn't been there. So
Right.
we're very blessed that we have a few friends who have a lot of means on their own, and they want to help us. And
Nice.
that's been hard for me to accept that.
Hmm.
So there's been that. There's been the guilt whenever I know he doesn't want to go stay somewhere, but I get so tired after a period of time. I work full time
Right.
from home, except for one day a week. So
Right.
I'm able to work
So
from
that's
home.
like two major full-time jobs for you.
It really is.
Mhm.
And it's emotionally, physically, mentally,
Draining.
financially, there's a lot of stress to it.
Right.
I'm very committed to keeping him at home as long as I possibly can. So
Mhm.
that's been my goal all along.
Good.
And so we compromise in that. He goes to a facility. Like I just got back from Europe,
Mhm.
which was a gift. Somebody gives me a
So
gift. I
nice.
get to go to London. And I was
Wow.
like, I can't do that. I can't do that because of Donald. And then I thought, you know what? You have to do it.
You have to.
So
You still have to live
that's,
your life. You still have to live your
well,
life.
it is. And I've had to expand, I guess, what that means,
Yes.
because
Because you're trying to figure
my
out
life,
where you're, people that, especially if they're married, it's like, now am I a spouse or am I a caregiver or am I a friend? Like, what have I morphed into here? But you're still you. You're still you and you still need things for
exactly.
you. Yeah.
But part of my life is his situation.
Right.
And yeah, there is the thing that I I grapple, because I feel like in ways, just in ways, but in ways that's not the man I married.
Right.
That person is kind of gone.
Right.
Um,
And it's
so
sad because you're mourning a relationship that you had, you're mourning a relationship that you looked forward to enjoying in the future. There's actually a
yes,
mourning process there that you have to go through, saying this
a
is not what
lot.
I signed up for and this is not the person that I fell in love with. So now my
Yeah.
entire role has changed into something else. That's a big deal.
Well, and so there are times I feel like, well, now I'm not a spouse, I'm a caregiver. I don't
Right.
really have a partner in life that helps me do anything or
Right.
make decisions, or that's gone. But then I feel like, okay, wait a minute, I get to define marriage the way I get to define it.
That's right.
So I have decided that until one of us goes, we're in it. And we didn't say the words sickness or health. We didn't do traditional vows,
Right.
but it's true.
But it's in your
And
heart.
it absolutely is. And
Mhm.
so while he's not the same person, there are moments where one smile can still take my breath away.
Aw,
And so,
that's so
well,
sweet.
and I
That's
think
sweet.
um again, people watching this, I don't know where they are, but like for me, feeding him is so um humbling. So
It's intimate. It's an
it's
intimate
very intimate.
process.
That's the word I was looking for. Thank
Intimate
you.
process. Yes.
It is a very intimate thing, and he's so trusting.
Yeah.
His whole being is just open to me
Right.
helping him.
Right.
And that to me is astounding. Like I feel, oh my God, like I don't think I could do it.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I couldn't do that. I'm a different personality type.
Mhm.
I don't know how I would do that, but
But
he
while
is
you're
so
feeding
open.
him, he's probably looking in your eyes thinking, I would be doing this for you. I would do this for you.
He,
So, as much as you go
and
through
he
the
would.
process of bathing and feeding, and as he's looking in your eyes, he's thinking, I would do this for you, Taylor. I would do this for you.
Yeah. It's a deeper level of I never dreamed that this would happen.
Mhm.
And having said that, from my own perspective, which may not be true for anyone else watching this or for you, Amy, but from my perspective, I've felt all along, even when I first met him, it was a soul thing.
Right.
It was like a soul agenda, a
Uh-huh.
curriculum
Mm-hmm.
that we came together to live, to work through things, my father died of early onset dementia
Oh,
when he was completely disabled by the time I was in high school. So
wow.
I fed my father.
Wow. So
I cared for my father when I was,
you've had a life history of being a caregiver.
well, I have, and I feel like that while it's not always pleasant, it's certainly not what I would prefer. It is part of why I know I'm on this planet
Right.
for that purpose. And
Exactly.
I do it very imperfectly. And I get up every day and I think, okay, I'm here to help. I'm here
Right.
to serve humanity. I'm
Mhm.
here to take care of this man who absolutely would take care of me. And that's not the way, and has. I had
Right.
cancer in 2013 and
Wow.
he completely showed up for the whole
Wow.
thing.
Right.
I had heart surgery in 2019. He was already declining. So I couldn't get into rehab. My insurance wouldn't cover it. So I had open heart surgery. I wasn't allowed to use my arms for 8 weeks
Oh my
because
goodness.
they split the sternum. So the door, somebody helped us bring me home, and then the door closed, and it's Donald and I, him caring for me with Lewy body dementia, and I was completely helpless.
Oh my
But
goodness.
somehow we we
You made
worked
it
it out.
happen.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
he's done it for me, and now, I do it for him. And I feel like part of it is also being able to kind of, how do I want to put this? I was a teenager with my father, so I wasn't particularly skillful. I did what I needed to do to take care of him, but it was really devastating. And I
Yeah.
didn't show up at my best, even though I was a teenager. I was a
Mhm.
teenager.
Right.
Um, Now I feel like there are moments where I really get that I'm doing it for my father. I'm doing it for my mother who went through all of that, and for my
Uh-huh.
family who went through all of that.
Mhm.
So I get to do it again, hopefully better. And it
Exactly.
gives,
And you'll never regret any of that time that you've had to take to set time aside for yourself to care for somebody that you love. You'll never look
right.
back on that and go, why did I do that? Why did I waste it? Had to be such an emotional bonding with the
Yeah.
person that you're caring for that there could never be a regret that you took that time to do that. Same for how it is with Donald right now. There's no regret. You'll never have a regret that you
No.
took all this time to make this happen.
No, there are times I regret like something I say or the energy
Right.
I may bring to something. I'm a very passionate person. I have my own physical stuff going on. So I've ripped both of my rotator cuffs
Oh
in my
boy.
arms. So I can't go have them fixed because that would be weeks and weeks and weeks, and I need to
Right.
take care of him.
Right.
So some of the things I do for him are very painful.
Yeah.
physically painful.
Right.
And so sometimes I snap at him because it
Well, of
hurts.
course, of course.
And then of course I have to deal with that emotionally, like, oh, be kind,
But every
be
day, but reality is every day we're not nice every day all day long. We're not. It would be nice. I mean, I guess on Facebook, when you look on Facebook, you go, God, those happy people. It's so not true. Our
yeah,
lives do this. And they say it's like looking at an EKG. You know, your heart goes up and down and up and down and up and down. If it went straight and everything was groovy all the way along, you'd be dead because you're flatlined.
exactly.
Your
I
life
love that
has
image.
got to do the ups and downs to
Yeah,
appreciate the ups when you're in the down.
yeah,
So it's normal to
yeah. And I
snap.
have to really, like, Donald sleeps a lot, so I do get quiet time when he's sleeping. And so
Good.
my spiritual base is everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's what keeps me centered. I don't know how people do it that don't have some type of a spiritual base, but
Right.
that I feel like
It grounds you.
most people most people would call it gods. I don't really call it God per se, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm so aware that see if this image can land for you. It may not for anybody else, but it does for me very profoundly. I feel like when I'm feeding him, like I'm feeding this expression of God. And so it
Oh,
gives it a context that
yeah.
makes it very meaningful and purposeful.
So
And
sweet.
I screw up every day.
So
And then
do
I
I.
step back and I go,
Yep.
okay, Taylor, come
Mm-hmm.
on, you can do this. You can do that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I do it imperfectly. And I'm getting friendlier and friendlier with the fact that it's a struggle.
It's a
And
struggle, and I
it's
want you to get friendlier and friendlier with yourself. So don't come down so hard
yeah,
on yourself when you screw up or you snap or you know, everybody does it during the day. You know, you can snap at somebody in the grocery store and they'll get in the car and think, oh, that wasn't very nice, but they, whatever. That's part of just being a human being. And as a
it is.
caregiver, you have got an extra burden on top of you. So if you're going to add guilt on top of that for snapping or being a human being, that's one more thing you just have to digest at the end of the night when you're laying in bed at night. So try to be friendlier
Right,
with yourself and not come down on yourself
right.
if you have a human being day.
And with other the friendlier I am with me, the friendlier I can be with other people
Right.
who say unbelievable things sometimes,
Yes.
trying to be helpful.
Right.
It's just like the one that I hear most often probably is, I know what you're going through. One time I felt like I could say authentically and as kindly as possible, I said, well, no, you don't. But if you ever want to know, just ask me.
Right.
Because everyone thinks they know and nobody
Yes.
knows.
They
It's
don't.
different
And
for
or
everybody.
sometimes they'll use that, like they use it like a word whisker. You'll say, oh my goodness, I'm going through this or that. And they'll go, oh, tell me about it. And they cut you off and then start telling you their sob story. But or what you have to say, oh, I know exactly what you're going through. Everybody's journey is different. Everybody's life is different. It's like a different recipe. You have no clue what I'm going through. So let
Yeah.
me tell you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one that always give me a call, let me know what you need.
Right.
It just freezes me. I just am
Right.
like, I'm not gonna call you.
No.
I don't know what I need.
Right.
I feel like to some degree, though, it's mostly unconscious. People do that so they feel better about having said that.
Exactly.
I feel like we're a little bit of an island. And there's a lot of me that's okay with that. Like I struggle even walking around.
Mm-hmm.
Donald really struggles walking around.
Right.
So, like I was telling somebody yesterday, I feel like we're a little bit of a tripod. Like we hold each other up because neither one of us is strong enough to walk on our own. But there's a beauty to that
Yes.
that I think
It's your own little
we're
dance.
gonna keep going.
Yeah.
It's just going to the pharmacy, going where if we have to go somewhere like today, this afternoon, I'll take him to the dermatologist and we'll
Uh-huh.
be holding each other up to get in there.
Uh-huh.
And it's not what I thought would happen,
Right.
but it is what's happening.
Right.
And this
And you
is
can find humor in it. And you can look at him and burst out laughing and say, good thing I have you and you've got me, or we'd both be on the
oh,
floor.
it's there. Donald's not a laugher. I really am.
Uh-huh.
So he doesn't laugh a lot, but occasionally like he'll catch the humor of something
Right.
and then he
Gets it.
smiles that smile that is still him.
Uh-huh.
And that's when those moments like that are so precious. And I don't want to miss one of them.
Yes.
And
You almost
then
want to stop and take a picture of it so you can save it.
it's so true because
Mm-hmm.
there's the light. because the
Yep.
light feels like it's dimming. It's a
Right.
very, very slow rheostat.
Right.
And when there's a moment, a glimmer, then I hang on
You
to
feed
those.
on that.
Yeah. Yeah. So
One of the side effects I know with Lewy body, because we have a few patients that we deal with, are hallucinations. Like they'll
yes.
see small children, they'll see a hole in the floor, they'll see animals. Did Donald ever go through any of that?
He went through a lot of it, especially early on.
Right, right.
He would thrash at night, he would scream,
Oh.
he had really severe ones before we even knew really what it was.
Mhm,
I just thought, oh my God, are you having nightmares? We didn't know what it was.
mhm,
But when we first went to the Alzheimer's place, they did ask him about hallucinations, and he
mhm.
said, well, no, I don't have hallucinations. I never has it. Well, okay, the tile moves on the floor.
Oh,
And I'm like, wait, you don't have hallucinations, but the tile's moving on the floor.
right.
Well, occasionally there's these great big spiders on the ceiling, but I don't think that's a hallucination. I'm like, Donald, that's not. So now,
Uh-huh.
what's fascinating to me is he'll say,
Mhm.
okay, either this happened or it's a hallucination. So he's mindful enough to be able to get
Yes.
that it may or may not be
That
reality.
probably didn't happen. Right. But it's
Probably didn't
very real
happen.
to him. It's very real to him. Mhm.
Exactly. And we can both share that. Like he'll kind of perspective take with me. So he'll say, this is what I think is happening, that it might be a hallucination. Is it
Mhm.
happening? So it gives me a really wonderful opening to say, no, honey, that's not happening. You're
Aw,
right. You're
right.
right. It's a hallucination.
Mhm.
And then we're like, okay.
Good.
So we really deal with it. They don't happen as often.
Mhm.
Um, I don't know. It's really weird. Like one of the primary drugs that they give people with Lewy body, because it's related to Parkinson's. It's
Right.
not Parkinson's, but it
Right.
is related to it. So they
Mhm.
give them this drug called carbidopa levodopa,
Yep.
which the
Mhm.
name in and of itself, I don't know how anybody with or without dementia can remember
Can't
that
even
name.
spell that.
I know, but one of the side effects of it is that it can cause hallucinations. So it's one of
Oh,
those bizarre
wow.
things that you go, oh, great. So the drug that they give him for hallucinations can cause hallucinations.
Hallucinations. Isn't that
Okay, well,
something? Yeah.
so
Right.
sometimes I think, okay, is it the Lewy body or is it
The drug.
the drug?
Yeah.
But I think now at this point, like I feel like the whole situation has brought me more into present time. Like
Yeah.
I have to stay in today
Mhm.
because of the situation with not being able to get help, and
Right.
we're in our own home
Mhm.
still,
That's
single
wonderful.
family dwelling, which I prefer.
Mhm.
It's one level. I love the neighborhood. I bought the house 21 years ago. Then I met Donald later, but
Uh-huh.
I don't want to give up this house.
Right.
So we're going to stay in it as long as
You're
we possibly
comfortably where
can.
you want to be right now.
We are, and people have said to me, again, helpful people, you really need to sell that house. You need to go into assisted living. You need to do this. And a couple people that I know well enough, I can say, you know what? That isn't helpful.
Good.
No, it's
Good.
not helpful. That's
Right.
not what I want to do. So
Right.
having the help with senior helpers, he gets Meals on Wheels, which is an incredible organization.
Good.
It helps me because I'm not a big I'm not a good cook. So I can throw lettuce in a bowl for me, and then he
Uh-huh.
has his balanced meal, which I pop in the
Right.
microwave. And so little things like that have allowed us. And if I allow myself to go too far forward, if I movie make about what might happen,
Right.
then I suffer. If
Well,
I stay
you
into,
begin to panic because it's out of your control. So, like you said previously, and I love your phrase, I have to stay within today. Because if I think back on where I came from, or maybe mistakes I made in the past, or worried about things I shouldn't have done, or if I go too forward and I don't really like what I see going forward, that's completely out of your control, and so's that. So staying in
yeah,
today is exactly where you need to be. You're appreciating that quick little glint of a smile and feeding him and having the eye contact and enjoying the moment while he's sleeping that you've got private time. Going
yeah,
forward and going backwards is going to get you nowhere other than panicked and frustrated. So I love
yeah.
that you're focusing on, I'm going to stay with today.
And that's stress. For me, it's like people will say, oh my God, it must be so stressful.
Yeah.
Well, I think the most helpful thing for me is that I am very aware that I get to frame this in whatever
Yes.
way I choose.
Yep.
So I can sit there and go, oh my, like I have my aunt, is just such a wonderful soul, but she tells me all the time, this is so unfair. This is
Aw,
so unfair.
yeah,
And I'm like, Aunt Joyce, life is unfair.
right.
I don't
We were
expect it
not
to be fair.
guaranteed fairness through life. And if we had it,
No,
we wouldn't
and
appreciate it. So,
I get to frame this however I'm going to frame
right.
this. So I'm choosing, in my best moments, I see this as a blessing that
Yes.
I get to serve another human being at this level. Very few people, I think, get that chance. And so I see it as a blessing. And then, there are moments where I love him so much I could strangle him,
Oh,
and both
right.
are true. This is bumpy. And I often think, I may have said this to you at some point, when you hear the term caregiver, it sounds pretty and nice
Right.
and neat,
Mm-hmm.
and yet it is radical and
And it's a mess.
frustrating. And there are times where I show up fiercely. I
Mm-hmm.
will fiercely advocate for that man.
Mm-hmm.
And you've experienced a little bit of
Yes.
that.
But I
So
respect
don't
you for that.
don't mess with him,
Right.
because you can mess with me. I can
Right.
handle it. But
Right.
don't mess with him,
Yep.
because I'm so committed to taking care of him, and that he has the dignity that he deserves.
Absolutely. And
That,
your Papa Bear's fangs will come out if somebody does try to do
oh,
that. But I think
absolutely.
your main focus is for him to have the dignity. So the way he's cared for, the way he's talked to, the way he's referred to when he's in the room, he deserves respect and dignity. Absolutely. And I love that you have a vengeance for that.
Well, and as I've also said to you, but and people are going to be coming from all different spaces that may
Right.
watch this. But for us, we have the added challenge, if you will, of being a male married couple.
Yes.
And I have faced that numerous times,
Yep.
that has come against us. And I am really unmovable about that. I just am like, you know what? Your opinion, your ideology, whatever, doesn't matter in our experience.
No.
This is who we are.
Right.
This is we fought long and hard for this right.
Mm-hmm.
So when we were able to marry in Massachusetts, we had to go to Massachusetts. We couldn't marry in Florida. So
Okay.
we went to his home state.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it was federally recognized, like, we have all the rights. And
Mm-hmm.
so thank God, because I can care for him. I can make all of his medical decisions. I can do
Good.
all of the things that a
Right.
spouse
Well,
is
before
allowed
you
to
wouldn't have been
do.
able to.
I wouldn't have been able to.
Mm-hmm.
So when people say things to us, um, Donald was, when he was able to, he was a real gay activist,
Mm-hmm.
much more than I am.
Mm-hmm.
But I protect that part of him because I
Mm-hmm.
know that's so important to him.
Right.
So when I begin to sense it, I'll say, okay, you need to back up.
Yeah.
You need to
Right.
back up, because this is who we are,
Right.
and your opinion of it really doesn't matter. And I think that we're, in our own little way, we're changing the world because we show up, and I'm very clear. Oh, I had a couple people say, because he's 10 years older than me and his
Mhm.
illness has aged him, they'll say, oh, I love how you treat your father.
Oh, oh,
That's not my father.
no.
That's my husband.
Right.
But I also feel like I look at young people today and I think, you know, you're going to stand on our shoulders.
Yeah.
We fought the fights.
Mm-hmm.
We went to the battle when we needed to, and now there's more rights. I
Right.
mean, there was a movement to take them away,
Mm-hmm.
but you can't take this away from me.
Right.
Nobody can take away what I've been able to do with him and
Right.
care for
Right.
him. So that's solid. So
So I think you've got a
yes.
nice communication with each other that you can. So I would say two things. What is the biggest challenge you have right now today? And then secondly, what is the thing that you've overcome blissfully with all of this?
Probably the biggest challenge is my own self-evaluation of how I'm doing this.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would probably be it. I mean, there's a lot that happens. I look at him and I have glimpses of the man he used to be and who he is now,
Mm-hmm.
and how this has just impacted every area of his life. And so there's a lot of grief, but I
Right.
think probably the biggest challenge is I want to do this perfectly for him. And
Right.
I know I'm imperfect and I know I can't intellectually, but emotionally, that's still the hardest thing for me, is
Mm-hmm.
when I do mess up, if my voice is edgy or something like that, I really struggle. And I think that's been that's been a lifelong thing that has only gotten exacerbated in this situation.
Sure.
Um,
Sure. And then
so
on the
yeah,
flip side of it, what would you say would be the beauty of this journey? Because you're on this journey, what would you say is the one twinkle? And you may have mentioned it again, and you can just reiterate, what is one thing that you can take from this saying, if I didn't have to go through this, I wouldn't have this?
well, I'm so much more than I was.
Mhm.
I have to every single day become more. As he becomes less, so to speak,
Right.
I have to become
You've
more.
got to
And
balance that.
so
Right.
I've, though I've lived with people with dementia my whole life, this has really amped it up. And so I feel like every single day I have to become more to be able to hold all that I'm called to do. It's a lot every day. And so, but I can feel like I tease my friends, but I think it's actually true. I have a PhD in fortitude and resilience.
Love that.
It's just, it's getting stronger and stronger and
Mhm.
stronger. And
Mhm.
again, just to reiterate the thing about the pattern, like that's the other thing, is that I never lose sight of the fact that there's something bigger that's happening other than just the surface level. Donald's sick, I'm his caregiver, this is what we have
Right.
to do. There's always this added sense that
There's
this
so
is
much
a
of a bigger
soul
picture.
thing.
Yes. Yes.
It's a bigger picture that I am called to show up to the
Right.
best of my ability,
Right.
and I am here to serve his soul. And he and I are enrolled in something that is beautiful and cosmic and at times tormenting.
Mhm.
But we were called together. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind. We were called together and we're here for the duration. Like I
And the
know that.
emotion and the intimacy and your relationship and your communication and the fervor of all of that, getting it together, most people will never, ever, ever experience with a spouse. They
No.
won't. They just won't.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And remembering that on a moment to moment basis. You
Mhm.
know, I had to do 35 things to be able to be on here with you.
Wow.
And that's what it's like all the time.
Right.
Like I have to do all, I have to get up very early. I have to
Right.
prep. I have to get him situated. I have to feed him. I have to do his meds. And so all of that's in the mix for everything I do.
Right.
And I think, you know what? I am I am in many ways more alive than I've ever been.
Yeah.
Even with my own health challenges, I
Mhm.
am more alive because I feel like I'm really on task. I'm on purpose.
Right.
My life has meaning.
Mhm.
And that's always been just a call within me. It's that I leave this world better than I found it, you
Right.
know? And in
Right.
my own little way,
Mhm.
I'll never be known. I was teasing a group Sunday. I said, you know, one day sooner rather than later, I'll die. Two people will cry, five people will eat, and then they'll all be done. You know, and it's, they
That's
laugh,
not
but it's really
true.
true. It's true.
No, you've
So what
touched a
can
lot of
I,
people's lives, and I have to say, I follow a lot of your inspirational quotes and things on Facebook,
mm,
and many of them touch me. Many of
mm,
them touch me. So, what you have to offer people, you may not realize it, even just this program and you talking on this program, you've touched a lot of people's lives and hearts because of the experience that you've been through. And what you're doing is riding your bicycle as fast as you can, but leaving positive messages along the way. So you might have had to do 35 things this morning, but you're sitting looking cool, calm, collected with a cute smile on your face. And you've got a blessing
mm.
to share with all of us. You've touched a lot of people's lives. And in fact, I want to even tell our viewers, if there's anything that you would like to speak to Taylor about, or maybe you have a question for him, you can post that on our Facebook or on our Instagram private messages. I can make sure that Taylor gets those messages. You can follow him also on Facebook. But if there's something that's touched you that you would like to hear more about, or maybe there's something that you would like to ask him or something that you would like to share with him, be sure to go on either our Facebook page for Senior Strategies or Instagram and go to the private message so I can share those things with him.
You're
And you've
so
been
powerful,
wonderful.
Amy. Really. You really, your life is filled with passion and purpose. And I think that's why we clicked.
Yeah,
I
I
knew
do
it
too.
instantly.
Yeah.
And so I so honor you. I'm so grateful to have been a part of this. I hope that this was in some way meaningful.
Oh, it was meaningful. It was, I would have to say, one of my favorites. I adore you.
Oh,
Truly.
you're wonderful. You're
You're a
really
good
wonderful.
person.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us today on Senior Strategies. We hope that you found the tools and the strategies that we offered you beneficial for your journey as a caregiver. We want you to leave today feeling empowered and supported.
Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube for upcoming shows and events. For more information, to schedule a consultation, or to join a support group, please contact us at 561-800-6654.
And remember the strategies
And tools you can use
to make your journey easier.